well ever since. The hard things in your story are real. I'm not here to take that away. I'm not here to shrink or remove any of your lived experiences, but the good things are real too. This week on Adjusting, we are talking about another cognitive distortion, but this one is like a 2 for 1. We're talking about magnifying and minimizing, and we're going to address where they come from, how they show up in your body, whether you're a performer, in a relationship, you're a creative, or even in faith based settings. We're going to address why you need to shift this, and we're going to apply many tools to help you reverse the way you see magnifying and minimizing. So, we're going to magnify your wins, we're going to take up space, and we're going to know our worth. So, sit back, relax, and welcome to Adjusting. And we're back with another episode of Adjusting Podcast with your host, Justin G. Nelson. Y'all, we are almost through with this series, and I really, really hope that something is resonating with you all, that you are leaving being able to really name and compartmentalize, put things in a box, label the things that are triggering you with these cognitive distortions. It's been a great learning experience for me. And today we are continuing the conversation with the topic magnification and minimization. I have to look at it because I was saying maximization and or maximizing and minimizing, but it's magnification, which is the cousin of catastrophizing, and minimization. Okay. Yes, great. First, I want to thank TJ with Tea with TJ podcast for editing. He's back in the city. He's back on the grind. So please show him and his podcast some love. Speaking of love, if you would please, and you're watching this in video format, please go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please. I'm trying to work on like a pitch deck so that I can get sponsors and endorsements and potential brand deals and things like that. And they look at data, they look at metrics, they look at numbers, and I want them to know that people actually listen and watch the podcast. Okay, great. So go subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and iHeartMusic or iHeartRadio and all those platforms too. But YouTube, really do YouTube. Great. Other than that, thank you all again for supporting. If you're new here, hi, I'm Justin. I created this podcast as a way to share things that I'm learning in therapy, as well as provide other things and topics from all these books back here that I'm reading. And we start each episode with a grounding, breathing exercise. But if you're driving, focus on the road. Yeah, you can keep your eyes open and breathe, but if you are home or in the office or somewhere where you can like escape and get a second to yourself to ground yourself, I invite you to do that now. Okay, we're gonna plant our feet flat on the ground. We're gonna relax our ankles. Relax your shins or your calf muscles, relax your knees, relax your hips and your hip flexors, relax your stomach, relax your chest, relax your shoulders, kind of roll them back, relax your neck, relax your chin and your cheeks, relax your forehead, close your eyes. And we're going to breathe in for 4, we're going to hold it for 7, and we're going to release for 8 seconds. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let it all out. Okay, we're going to do it one more time. But instead of a 4, 7, 8, we're just going to take a deep breath in and out just to release anything else that might be blocking you from focusing on today's episode. So just breathe in. and out. Great. Let's begin. So, today we're talking about magnification, or the cousin of catastrophizing, which in theory would be catastrophizing, and then you would categorize magnification and minimization. Now, magnification and minimization are two sides of the same coin. Thank you for watching. But they always travel together. Magnification is when you take something negative and you blow it out of proportion. Same with catastrophizing. But minimization is when you take something good, a compliment, positive praise, an award, an accomplishment, something like that, and you just put it aside and you say, that's not worth sitting with or praising or putting too much time on. And we're going to work on this. By the end of the episode, you're going to be able to reverse it. Okay, we'll take that big thing, that big negative thing, and make it small. And take time to sit with and praise your accomplishment because you deserve it. Okay? The clinical term, again, for the extreme version of magnification is catastrophizing. When your brain takes one thing that went wrong and immediately fast forwards to the absolute worst possible outcome. Minimization often masquerades as modesty. Okay, so for my people who grew up in the faith-based settings, being humble, all of that, and I know everybody talks about her, but Beyonce, and I think it was a concert or a song or something she did. There was a guest artist that did an intro that talked about Black women were raised or taught to be not quiet. I'm misquoting, but basically, in a nutshell, I'm speaking about the notion that women should be seen and not heard, or oftentimes in the church we're just like, don't brag too much and stay humble, and they're quick to say, because God will humble you or something like that, and it becomes this form of minimization that trickles into other areas of our lives. Okay, so together, these two distortions create a completely skewed internal accounting system. The losses always get counted double, okay, bigger than what they are, and the wins barely make it into the ledger. And it's exhausting. It's so exhausting. And this language sounds like I got one bad review, my whole project's a failure. Sure, I finished it, but it's not that impressive. Anyone could have done it. And I know some people who do this. And I'm like, but think about if you didn't do it at all. Then what? So we're working through this. Notice how the first set makes small things enormous, and the second set makes real things invisible. Both are distortions. Now, how does this show up across the areas in your life? I'm trying to get back in the dating world. So in relationships, this looks like if you have one disagreement, and usually it's like the first 3 months of the relationship or the first 6 months, you have one disagreement and you automatically assume the relationship's over, this is not going to go well. And I know people love to come into a relationship with a criteria or a checklist or a must-have list. And again, we had to have a little gray area in the discovery zone in the dating, because I'm thinking about Mayor Mamdani. His wife he's allergic to cats, or he doesn't like cats, or I think he's allergic. And his wife wants two cats. And they could have had this huge falling out because, she wants cats, he's allergic. The magnification of it all could have been, we're not compatible, this is going to end. You know what he did? He went and got his shots so that he can no longer be allergic. He'll be immune to the cats, and they can get two cats. I would never do that, but good for him. But on the flip side of the same coin, if your partner were to surprise you with flowers or some random cash app or a random Zelle and say, get your nails done or something, most of y'all are wired to believe, oh, they cheating, they guilty, something happened. What, like, they don't do stuff like this. What if they have been reading some books? They've been trying to show up more in the relationship. And because of your nervous system, you automatically assume something bad. Or you don't have space for something good and you automatically flip it to the negative. In creative work, you pour yourself into something, you share it, you get 9 glowing reviews. Okay, you get all these thumbs up, all these hearts, all these likes, and then you get one motherfucker who wants to give you a negative review or a dislike. I had somebody leave a comment on my video saying, I want to watch your videos, but your intros are too long blocked. Take that, spam person. I blocked you. But magnification does that. We magnify that one negative thing, that one voice that confirms your fear, and minimize the 9 that challenge it. This is also why so many creators talk themselves out of sharing work before it even gets made. The imagined rejection has already magnified into devastation at work. Okay, at work, we're shifting. You're at work, you finish this huge deliverable, and instead of thinking, I knocked it out the park. Okay, I know we're gonna get that deal. I know my boss is gonna be proud. You're thinking about everything you could have done better. And in doing so, you're minimizing your success, the hard work you put in, and saying, well, anybody could have done it. They just asked me because, it's my job description. And that's why we don't be getting the promotions we deserve. Okay? Because we just like, it's okay. I'm better here. Somebody else deserves. Who said you didn't deserve it? Okay? Who said that you don't deserve to take up space? I'm jumping ahead. But know your worth. Take up space. We all deserve to be in higher positions. Okay, you can be the CEO of your life. Okay, I'm done. Keep going. Now this thing here, minimization and magnification, or yes, in healing spaces, okay, in safe faith spaces. This one I wanted to really sit with because Ebony and I had a podcast, like 2 episodes. It was Second Pew, and we wanted to talk about our lived experiences in the church as a Sunday school superintendent child, and she's a PK, a pastor's kid. We grew up in the church, okay? We lived and breathed the church. And one thing that I always talked about that came up in therapy was shining your light, okay? And I allowed the church to dim my light, especially, and I talked about this in early episodes, especially as it relates to my talent with singing. Went to school for music, went to school for choral conducting. Well, I didn't study choral conducting, but I was good at it. Okay, you give me a score in about 10 minutes, I'm get it. Okay, but going back into a space where people are not as technically trained or open-minded, it causes you to minimize your gifts and your talents because people are closed-minded and don't understand everything that you've learned. And it's not, and I never ever wanted to come back to the church feel like I'm better than anyone. I wanted to come back to my home church saying, we can be better than what we are. We can expand, we can change the tradition, we can grow beyond the traditional gospel songs. Now, what my script is saying, if you grew up in a religious or faith-based environment where perfectionism was tied to spiritual worth, where one sin felt like total unworthiness, or where grace was preached, but shame was the actual operating system, magnification and minimization got baked right into how you experienced God. Each mistake got magnified into evidence of your brokenness. Every moment of growth got minimized because you should be further along by now. Healing in these spaces means learning that you are not your worst spiritual moment and that growth doesn't have to be perfect to be real. All that to say, my prayer is that faith-based faith-based spaces and churches don't weaponize or use someone's trauma or lived experience as a tool, as some type of marketing tool to bring people into the church, not to save and meet them where they are, but a lot of time they use it as a way to just make more money, to grow the church. Like I often question, like, is the church growing based off people being saved and seen, or is it just growing based off people in the pews? That's another episode for another day. We're talking about magnification and minimization. So, in daily life and goal setting, you're working towards something, a health goal, a savings goal. I'm working on a couple of goals, right? So, and a creative project, and you miss one day. You miss one day. You have one day where your body's just like, we're tired. We're tired. You've been working hard. We're tired. Or you miss a week, and instead of treating it as a bump, your brain magnifies this one day off as complete failure. You negate all the other days, the meals you done ate, okay? Every dollar you done put aside, all the minutes and hours and time you have sat and worked on a plan and schedule. People don't realize, like, the planning of something, the brainstorming, that's part of the process. The meal prepping, that's part of the preparation, is part of the process. It's not just B to D. A is the starting point, okay? But with magnification and anxiety, we forget all that. We say you're not, and this again goes back to hustle culture and grind culture. It magnifies that if you are not doing something every day, nothing else counts. And that's when minimization comes in and you're just like, this is worthless. I'm not doing enough. Snap out of it. You're doing more than enough. You're doing more than other people. Okay, some people are just talking about it. You are actually putting action behind the thought. Okay. Now, how this shows up as trauma and anxiety. So, magnification and minimization aren't just bad habits. For a lot of people, they are nervous system responses, a pattern that the body and brain develop to try to stay safe. Again, a lot of these anxiety, cognitive distortions go back to childhood, in my opinion. Okay, again, I am not licensed, I just read a lot and I am trying to build my case, if you will, that a lot of our mental health things come from childhood experiences, okay? When you've experienced chronic stress, unpredictability, or trauma, your brain detection system, your amygdala, that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, I talk about that a lot. Like, I really want y'all to get that, gets calibrated to treat small threats as large ones. It's not being dramatic. It learned that in your environment, small things sometimes become catastrophic. Okay, so it started preparing for the worst as a default. That's magnification as a survival strategy. Minimization often developed as a companion response. So, if you grew up in an environment where your needs, your feelings, and your achievements weren't reflected back to you, you learn to then not put too much attention on them, okay? Because things like that were like expected of you. So you're just like, oh, okay. So how, like, what do I need to do now to get some type of attention or praise or recognition? Like, I can't get principal list. Like, what you want me to start my own school. Like, that kind of hurts. So parents, do better. Praise your kids for things. My mom and dad got me pizza. That's why I was a chubby child. But we had pizza. Okay, I always got to give them money because what they gonna do with the money? Huh? Right. Pizza is fine. So where it starts, childhood. Childhood. These patterns almost never start in adulthood, okay? They get magnified in adulthood. They get built early, often before you had the language to name what was happening. I'm trying to think of a name of my book. Is it going to be adjusting or is it going to be like name it? I don't know yet. But criticism heavy environments. I know we love to critique children, and I know teachers often like, you have to get some thick skin. I'm trying to give you tough love. I don't know if that always works. I don't know if that always works because then you create um, neural pathways in the child to expect that type of language from everyone. And when someone, I don't even say gentle parenting, but when someone approaches them with a soothing way, they're just like, "Oh, you weak? Huh? No, no. It's just a different type of approach. But if you grew up with a parent or a caregiver who was quick to point out what was wrong or slow to acknowledge what was right, your internal measurement system calibrated to theirs. Mistakes felt enormous because the feedback was enormous. Wins felt small because they were either ignored or immediately qualified. Good. It was okay, but you could have done better. Like, good is never enough. And that's exhausting for a child. And then you have conditional love and performance based worth. So if you were most loved when you were achieving, performing, succeeding, behaving well, then you learned that your value was tied directly to your output. And if your value was contingent on performance, then any failure felt catastrophic, magnification, and any success was just you doing the bare minimum of what you're required to be lovable, minimization. And then we have like unpredictable or volatile homes. That's when a child grows up in an environment where small things could suddenly shift and it becomes big. So your parent mood swings. If a parent was like on drugs or alcoholic, and when like odors, I think I talked about this, adjusting your sense or something, that can trigger some type of minimization and magnification within the home because that will you would smell something, you would hear something, you would feel something, and it's just like, this isn't safe. Like, I need to either hide, run, do something. Again, amygdala, fight or flight kicks in. And a lot of children, unfortunately, deal with that. Religious and community shaming. I am going to bring a sex therapist on to this platform to talk about shame because it is something that I find a lot of people in the African American community wrestle with. Um, and that there's never really a safe space to talk about it because people judge. People judge a lot. But if your formative faith experience emphasized sin, worthiness, and divine judgment without a strong foundation of grace and repair, I don't think a lot of people talk about repair when it comes to sin or coming out of a toxic or shameful environment. Like, we don't talk about the repair needed oftentimes. We don't label it as repair if we do talk about repair. Magnification often got encoded as a spiritual practice. Big guilt, big shame, a small sense of your own belovedness. Over time, the distortion in the theology became hard to separate. So, being dismissed or gaslit, if your positive experiences, accomplishments, or emotions were regularly dismissed, you're exaggerating. That wasn't that big of a deal. Stop making everything about you. You learn to minimize as self protection. You learn to just stop sharing shit. And then I do that. I do that a lot, actually. And sometimes I do it because my old friends, people I considered friends, it turned into a competition. Like I would share, oh, I did this. Oh, this one time I did this. Can I have my moment, bro? Can I just, can we sit and like talk about, oh, wow, how do you feel? How did that happen? Congratulations. What's next? Like, those are good questions, good follow up questions, good follow up statements and comments and concerns. Not, oh, I did that too. Ain't nobody asked you. We weren't talking about you. We were not. We were talking about me. Yeah. Yeah. And then social rejection and peer comparison. I said peer comparison. So, social rejection and peer comparison. Adolescence is a particularly fertile ground for these patterns, being compared to siblings, ranked in academics, okay, or athletic settings, or socially excluded from formative years teaches the brain to magnify evidence of inadequacy and minimize evidence of belonging. Many adults are still running that same teenage measurement system. If you were like a popular kid or a cool kid, I know I went to Overton High School in Memphis, Tennessee. And while I was not a popular child or a popular student, I was in the Kappa department. I was in the creative and performing arts department. Everyone knew me. Everyone knew me. And it wasn't because I tried to be known by everyone. I was just in everything. Okay. And I was never in class. And I was in the choir. So people knew me. Okay. But I still didn't fit in. I was not in the like popular clique. I was in the performing arts popular clique. There's a difference. When I went to college, still didn't fit in. Like I still don't fit in spaces because I shift. I'm a Cancer. I'm a water sign. I fit in like I get along to go along kind of thing, but I don't know. I've always just been an outcast, like because people shady, and I hear things. I hear you. So now we're talking about adjusting. Why shifting this pattern actually matters. So here's the thing about a distorted measuring stick. It doesn't just make you feel bad. It actively shapes the decisions you make, the risks you take, the rooms you walk in, and the ones you avoid. Magnification and minimization aren't just emotional experiences, they are behavioral guardrails that keep you playing a much smaller game than you're capable of. Okay? So when you magnify failure, you stop risking, you stop living in the gray, you stop being curious. Why would you? Every potential failure has been pre magnified into catastrophe. The cost of trying in your nervous system accounting is enormous. So you say safe, you say small, you call it being realistic. But when you minimize success, you can't build on it. You've already put a cap on how successful you can be. And I'm gonna tell you this. Keep rolling my sleeves because it's warm in here. But I feel like this episode has been the hardest to talk about without being too like all over the place because I have been in the season of minimization and minimizing and magnifying because I've had so many good things that have happened over the past 12 years of living here, but talking about them, I've had so many friends go, "Oh, okay." And I think the thing, this is me being like like throw the script away. But the thing that has been the most jarring and that consistently pisses me off is when people say, "Oh, I expected that of you." I didn't. Like, don't do that. Like, I just it really grinds my gears when people say, "Duh, you're just." I know who the hell I am, but it still doesn't take away that I would appreciate some sense of congratulations, some sense of you're raising the bar. That is a good response. Not, oh, duh. No, duh. Like you don't realize how much time and effort and energy I actually put into these things. Okay, that was my tangent. Um but this episode was really hard to record and write. So this is just me being completely completely transparent. But when you minimize success, you can't build it. You can't locate your own competence because every time you succeed, your brain files it under fluke or that's not impressive or anyone could have done that. You have no solid ground to stand on because you keep clearing away the evidence that you belong somewhere. This is why this This is why goals are so hard to sustain. Not because you lack discipline, because you lack an internal measurement system. We talked about a glass box last week. Okay, this week we're talking about a measuring system. It's working against you. The progress gets minimized, the setbacks get magnified, and eventually the math stops making sense and you step away from the goal. You've put a period. You know the phrase, you put a period where God puts a comma? Okay. So the period is you magnifying and saying, no, the period is you minimizing and say that's it. But the comma is God magnifying and saying there's more. The shift matters because you deserve an accurate picture of your own life, not an inflated one, not a defensive one, an honest picture. We're going to have a canvas, okay? I'm gonna buy everyone a canvas, and we're going to start painting our own picture. We're going to magnify our wins. We're going to put the wins big. We're gonna have some falls, okay? We're gonna have some losses here and there, but we're gonna make the wins big. One picture where good things count and hard things are proportionate, and you can finally make decisions from a place of clarity instead of distortion. Now, we've talked about imposter syndrome. It's coming up again, okay? Because I really want us to not I don't think we can ever do away with imposter syndrome because when we are growing and healing, we're always presented with other opportunities and new ways to look at things. And in doing so, we become a beginner again. So we are forced to sit with something and go, this feels different. I want to know more. I have to learn more and I have to get more experiences. Not I'm going on a job interview, I'm not qualified. This is just your day to day life. This is a hobby. This is you taking up a new craft. Like those things. Yeah. So, imposter syndrome is one of the clearest expressions of magnification and minimization working together. And it is rampant among creatives, first generation professionals, high achievers, and anyone who has ever walked into a room and wondered if they really belonged. So here's how the distortion plays out in real time. You get the opportunity, okay? The job, the project, the platform, the seat at the table. And this is real life. And instead of letting that land as evidence that you belong there, your brain immediately starts running the minimization program. It's like you get a seat and it goes, I got lucky. They must have had no other options. I got lucky. They must have been bored. I got lucky. I must have been a diversity hire. Yeah. Yeah. Every success gets explained away. And then something goes slightly wrong. One thing happens, you're not sure of an answer, you stumble in a presentation, you're learning something new and you don't know how to do it. And then the magnification program goes, see, I'm a fraud. There is proof. This is the proof. I don't actually know what the hell I'm doing. It was only a matter of time. Like that, we're waiting for the shoe to drop. That's the example of minimization. You're in this space, you got the relationship, you got the gig, and then you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's exhausting. Yeah, that's exhausting. The painful irony of imposter syndrome is that it tends to hit the people who are most thoughtful, most conscientious, and most aware of the hardest. The people who genuinely don't know what they're doing often don't worry about it. It's the people who deeply care, the people who are self aware, okay, who understand the complexity of what they're doing and really know the nuance of everything that goes into it. Those are the people who really deal with imposter syndrome because some of us are just perfectionists. The reframe, though, we love a reframe. Uncertainty is not the same as incompetence. Not knowing everything is not the same as not belonging. Everyone in rooms that feel intimidating to you is also figuring it out. The difference isn't they have it all together, it's that they haven't installed the same magnification filter on their gaps and minimization filter on their wins. They shifted their filter. They have a different paint stroke. Okay? We can have that too. And we're going to have it. Knowing your worth in this context means learning to let the evidence of your competence actually count. It means writing down what you know, what you've done, and what you've built, and refusing to let your brain immediately file it under doesn't count. That is not arrogance. Okay? That is not arrogance. That is accountability. So, again, we're going to know our worth. Let's slow down for a second. Drink your water. Pause if you need to, okay? Because it's getting vulnerable again. Knowing your worth isn't a vibe. It isn't a mantra. It isn't a live, laugh, love thing you can buy at Marshall's, at TJ Maxx, or Burlington's, okay? It is the practice of constantly refusing to let a distorted measuring stick be the last word on who you are and what your life counts for. So, if you grew up in an environment where your worth was performance based, where love felt conditional on achievements or compliance or caretaking, then your sense of value never got to be stable. Yeah. It was always dependent on the last thing you did or didn't do. Magnification and minimization are direct outputs of that instability. The work of knowing your worth as an adult, though, okay, because we talk about the inner child, the current you, and the future self. That's essential, and that is the work of building that internal stability from scratch. Sometimes you just got to start over. Sometimes you say, you know what, the past is in the past. Let it go. Let it go. It's not easy. It is slow. And it's some of the most important work you'll ever do, just like raising your credit score. But here's something worth sitting with. Self compassion researcher Dr. Christian Neff has found that people who practice self compassion, treating themselves with the same basic kindness they offered a friend, actually perform better, persist longer, and recover more quickly from setbacks than people who rely on self criticism. So, people who are always looking for feedback, or people who come from, like, find that athletes or people who come from like really, 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 really strict programs, they lack self compassion because they're always looking to be better or looking for more criticism or critique or feedback and stuff like that. But the inner critic, the voice that's doing the magnifying, minimizing, where did it come from? Because it's not your voice. We have to get to the root of who started this thing. You know, it's worth sitting with because you didn't originate it. It was somebody else. Was it a parent? Okay, was it a coach? Was it a religious authority? A partner who made you feel like you were never quite enough? Because again, the voice did not come from you. You were given it. Okay, but now it's time to mute that motherfucker. Okay, we're gonna mute it. We're gonna mute it. We're gonna block it, and we're gonna start shifting. So here is what you can do to actually shift. You can do a proportionality check, your first real time tool. When you notice a strong emotional reaction to something, ask yourself, is my response proportionate to the actual event? Not the catastrophized event, but what is happening now. There's a video that I love that I reenact all the time. They're playing Uno or they're playing a game on a show. And the girl goes, "What are you doing? What? You know what? I'm calm. I would not overreact. I am calm." We have to do that. We have to stop in the moment and say, "You know what? Why am I overreacting?" What I do, what Justin does is, "You know what? I'm going to mind my business because that has nothing to do with me. That is me making up something. It hasn't happened. And I will not put those thoughts in my head." Okay. So we're not going to focus on the catastrophized version. We're going to focus on the actual event. I sent an email with a typo. Is the actual event. Okay. My reputation, it was ruined. That's the magnification. Naming the gap between the two is where the work begins. So stay in the now, stay in the present. Name the filter, not just the feeling. When something good happens and you feel yourself starting to dismiss it, say it out loud or put it in writing. I'm minimizing this. I'm doing that thing again. I'm doing that thing again. You don't have to force yourself to feel good about it. Just name what the brain is doing. That's it. Okay. Naming it creates a tiny bit of distance between you and the distortion. And that distance between minimizing and your success, that's where the choice lives. You can choose to keep minimizing it, shrinking yourself, putting yourself in this small box, or you can just blow it up, make it big. The evidence audit for any belief that has been magnified, this is catastrophic. Ask yourself, what is the actual evidence for that? What is the evidence against it? What is the most realistic, proportionate assessment? This is some deep CBT work, so I'll put that on Substack. And then let the good things count on purpose. Start practicing what you might call an intentional receipt. Okay, when something goes well, when someone says something kind, when you finish something you're proud of, actually pause and let it register. Say to yourself, I did that shit. This counts. This is real. I finished it. I got the paper. Okay, I got the receipts. I did this. And it's going to feel awkward. You got to be your cheerleader. You got to be your own cheerleader first, though. You got to root for yourself because not everybody's going to clap. Okay? Do it anyway. You are literally rewiring the way your brain processes positive information. So, in relationships, okay, the next time a conflict feels big, like it might be the end of something, practice the proportionality check before you spiral. Ask, is this a moment or a pattern? Because if it's a pattern, y'all might need to see a relationship therapist or something. Because one hard conversation is a moment. A consistent, unaddressed pattern, that's something you see a professional about. In creative work, feedback is not the same as a verdict, okay? One person's critique is data about their experience of your work. It is not a comprehensive evaluation. Practice receiving feedback with curiosity, okay? Like, "Oh, I never thought about it this way," or, "Oh, that's another way to look at it." Instead of confirmation bias, ask yourself, "Was this useful?" Consider the source. Consider the source. Do you know what the hell you're talking about? Or you just, "Oh, thank you so much. Thank you." Do that. "Thank you so much." Make that face. "Thank you." Do that. At work, practice the debrief over the verdict. When something doesn't go well, ask what actually happened. Like, we're looking at this from two different lenses. What's one thing I do differently? That's accountability. You saying I'm a fraud, I don't deserve to be here, that's not accountability, okay? That's you magnifying the situation. In church settings, the healing and faith-based settings, if you carry spiritual shame, a sense that makes a sense that your mistakes are too big for grace and that your growth is too small to matter, I want you to gently offer this. The scale you were handed in those spaces may have been broken too. Some of your leaders are dealing with shit and they don't want to face the mirror that you are in these spaces. consider the source. Go to God in prayer by yourself. Okay, that's why we need our own little prayer corners in our home and our altars. Okay, faith that is healthy makes room for failure without making it the defining word. If the version of faith you inherited ran entirely on magnification of sin and minimization of belovedness, that was a human distortion, not a divine one. So if someone says to you, Spirit said to me, I rebuke you. I rebuke you. And in your daily life, progress is not linear and a broken streak is not a broken person. When you miss a day or a week, practice zooming out. See the big picture. Take in everything. Not just at one moment, but take in everything. I think we can stop there. I'm going to put some more notes and things on Substack, but this is what I want to leave you with. You have probably been the most unfair judge of your own life for a very long time. Not because you're broken, not because you're weak, but because somewhere along the way, someone intended to break you and hand you a scale that was calibrated to keep you small, to keep you under their hand and their beck and call, and to shrink you in a place to where you will always be dependent on someone else. And you've been using that scale ever since. The hard things in your story are real. I'm not here to take that away. I'm not here to shrink or remove any of your lived experiences, but the good things are real too. The growth is real. The effort is real. The moments where you showed up to be measured accurately, the moments where you showed up to be tried and created and loved begin again, those are real and they count. And they deserved to be seen, to be loved, to be cherished. Okay, so here's your practice for the week. When something goes wrong, don't give it too much attention. Just let it be what it is. But when something goes well, no matter how small, let it count for 5 full seconds before your brain tries to explain it away. You being here, paying attention to the way your own mind works, that is not a small thing. This whole episode, I've tricked you into rewiring how you view magnification or magnifying and minimizing as it comes to cognitive distortions. I hope and pray you learn something from this. This has been one of the hardest episodes, and you are brave for making it through this episode. I will see you next week. Until next time, keep adjusting. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you take something away to help you make the adjustments you need. Before you go, please take a quick second to share this with someone you care about. And if you can, please leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. For more information about adjusting or to inquire about being a guest, head over to adjustingpod.com. Until next time.